Hello, I'm Mayor Skip Hall, and welcome to my Council Conversation show. Everywhere you turn in Surprise, you see growth. We're welcoming new businesses, breaking ground on new housing, and our city center is becoming a vibrant core with Ottawa University growing their footprint to include student housing and a premier athletic facility. To help guide all that growth, we have appointed a new city manager. Plus, we hired our first ever emergency operations manager. We'll learn more about these city leaders in just a bit. But first, let's get an update on Ottawa University's growing campus. Here with me today are Dennis Tyner, Vice President and Provost of Ottawa University Arizona, and Mike Hoover, Strategic Partnerships Liaison for the city. Welcome, Dennis and Mike.
Thank you, Mayor Hall.
Dennis,
pleasure to be here today.
Dennis, it's always good to see you.
Always good to see you too.
And I'll tell you what, the growth of Ottawa has been impressive. Can you what is the population of the student count increased in the last?
Well, we're looking at, obviously we're turning into the spring semester for this year in
Right.
our second year, and just got out of a meeting. We're talking about our anticipated numbers for this semester. We think we're going to be at about 670 students on campus.
Wow, super. So that's up 50%.
From last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than 50%. We had 434 is what we
Yeah.
started with last year, so
Well,
we're
that's
over
outstanding.
50%, and we're really pleased. This is it looks like it's going to be an increase in enrollment from the fall to the spring semester, which is fairly unusual for an academic institution.
Really, that's
so
great.
we're really pleased. The team is just doing tremendous work, and the city has been helpful in helping us to get the word out to the people. And
Good.
the more people learn about Ottawa University being here, the more we're going to see those
Yes.
continuation and growth.
And in addition to the student body growth, the campus itself growth is visible.
That's
Can you-
probably bigger than the student body growth, because our number of buildings are increasing by 300%. Right?
I know. Can you tell us about that, Dennis, and when the buildings will complete?
Sure.
Be
So
complete?
we have 3 buildings that are under construction right now. The one that started first is the Odell Center for Athletics. It's about a 100,000 square foot facility. It'll be a joint use with the city. Really excited about that. That building has its outer shell essentially done right now, so you won't see a lot of changes on the external view of that building, because a lot of work is going to be taking place on the inside.
Right.
That's slated to be done about the middle of September.
Okay.
So it won't quite be ready for us for the beginning of our fall semester, but shortly after that, that one should be ready, and we should have our people in that building. A lot of things in that building. So we have our locker rooms. All of our locker rooms are in that building. Our training room, our athletic offices will shift into that building. We have some laboratory and multipurpose classroom space in there. So it's kind of a variety of different things that are taking place in that building. Recreation space, some studios, walking tracks, large number of things in that building.
Okay.
Second and third buildings are buildings that we're constructing with Novo Development. That is the first of our facilities that's going to be for student housing.
Okay.
And that will be an approximate 330 bed building. I say approximately because it depends on how many beds we actually put in each of the rooms, and we're looking
Right.
at different configurations for some of those rooms.
Okay.
Okay, so that building is slated to be done by approximately the middle of October. So
Okay.
again, we won't have that ready to go at the beginning of the semester,
Okay.
but we'll make the transition sometime during the fall semester.
Okay.
And the other building that is slated to be completed by the beginning of the fall semester is the new student union. So the student union will have the cafeteria, we'll have some meeting space, and it will have 4 conference rooms upstairs that can be opened up into 1 larger or 2 smaller rooms, or a variety of different configurations. And so we
Okay.
expect that there'll be some significant demand for use on the conferencing space, because there isn't a lot of conferencing space around here.
No, there isn't. Very good. Let's talk about athletics for a minute. Your athletic teams have excelled this year. It's been really impressive.
Yeah, well, Kevin Steele, our Director of Athletics, and Brittany Keller, our Assistant Athletic Director, are doing a phenomenal job with that group. Of course, probably most widely known around here because we hosted the Victory Bowl game,
Right.
is the football team and their performance, and Coach Nesbitt and his team have done just a completely phenomenal job with that crew. He's a class act. Coach Nesbitt is a great friend of mine. I love the man. He did a great job. He came as close as he could to victory in that bowl without winning that game. But he's done a great job. Our men's and women's golf teams. Men's golf team had a tremendous year. They finished as the runner-up. They came in second place in
Really?
the NCCAA Our coaches there have done a remarkable job of recruiting.
Did you have Mike mentoring them?
I think Mike needs to be mentored by them, quite frankly. We had the number 1 golfer, the number 2 golfer, and the number 4 golfer this year, nationally in the NCCAA.
Wow.
So they had a very successful run.
Outstanding. And you know what's kind of exciting too is a lot of the athletes are local.
That's correct. I've got to get soccer in there too, since the soccer season ended. Men's and women's soccer had phenomenal years as well, and both of them played in the postseason. So I mean, to be doing this in the second year it's an incredible statement about the character of our coaches, their abilities, and the way they discipline and handle their teams. They just do a tremendous job of educating those students and assisting them in the games.
Yeah,
it's more than just about a game to us. We love athletics. I love athletics, but we are about education, and so it's important that we're educating our student athletes to be students and to be athletes at the same time. And our coaches have just done a great job under Kevin Steele's leadership in that area. We just couldn't have picked a finer person to lead that department.
It's great. What does the future look like for your athletes?
Well, we're going to see some growth in the next year in terms of sports. We're always looking at what sports are on the horizon and where we think we have opportunities. So we will see men's and women's varsity water polo, men's and women's varsity swimming.
Okay.
We will see that next year.
Okay.
So that's the only new varsity sports we'll have. We have club sports in lacrosse, ultimate frisbee, cycling. Some of those may transition into varsity sports if there's enough demand. We have bowling as a club sport as well.
Okay.
And we're seeing some good interest in that particular area.
Oh, interesting.
Well, with Uptown Alley, right?
Yeah, I know.
What a facility, right?
Not
right here in Surprise, Uptown Alley.
I know.
With a private bowling area that you have in there.
Yes.
So we'll probably see continued growth in the club area, and then we'll figure out which of those club sports are appropriate to transition into additional varsity sports for us.
Great. Super. One other thing.
You're allowed more than one other thing.
I know. Ottawa has a very unique philosophy about outside the classroom, the student outside the classroom. Tell us about that. Okay,
so we call it PGDs, which stands for Personal Growth Days, and we've set our Wednesdays aside. Every Wednesday is a personal growth day. So it's not classroom day, although some of our students, or all of our students, are actually in a classroom somewhere. But we focus specifically on the development of the person, the holistic development of the person. And in particular, the way I like to describe it is, what we're trying to do with our students is we're trying to make them world ready and work ready. So there's more to being ready for work, the workforce, and being ready for the world than just going to college and receiving an education. And quite frankly, if I can say this, a lot of colleges are in the business of educating students. And even at that level, students today, we see this, so we're no different than anybody else. Students today aren't particularly interested in their education. What they're interested in is a degree. They want a degree in their hands. What they don't understand is a degree isn't going to get you a job, and it's not going to get you the next job after that either.
Right.
And so we know that, and we take that very, very seriously. And our approach is a component of your experience at Ottawa University is that you're going to receive an educational background in a particular area that you're interested in. But the other component is you're going to learn to be ready for the world and ready for the workforce. And we're going to teach you those kinds of skills, help you learn those kinds of skills and practice them. And Mike has assisted us with several of those. Skills that are going to help you rise above the competition from other schools who are graduating. What's going to differentiate you? I'll tell you what it's going to be. In most cases, it's not going to be the grades on your transcript.
Right.
It's going to be what you do in the interview.
Right.
And how you can hold yourself up in an interview, and what sorts of things you can do once you're on the job. What sorts of things can you do that others cannot do?
Right.
So my discipline, as you know, is engineering.
Sure.
Engineers have a reputation of
I always kid him about that.
You do kid me about that. So they have a reputation of sort of being individual, and they don't work well with other people, and
right.
It's sort of nerdy, if I can use that expression. And one of the things that we want to help those people with, and in particular with engineers, is we want to help them in the areas that they might be a little less comfortable. Maybe they're uncomfortable talking in front of groups of people. We want to help them be comfortable. We're not going to change who they are as a person. We want them to be comfortable in environments that they are going to experience.
Exactly.
So that's what we're trying to do on our personal growth days. And we think it is unquestionably our major differentiator between us and other institutions. And if that's something that appeals to students, Ottawa University could be the right place for them.
That's great. So Mike, what does the city's partnership with Ottawa look like?
You know, when you say what does it look like, I think one of the important things when we actually do an aerial view of this campus, some traditional colleges across the country, they build really high walls, they'll build high hedges to kind of insulate themselves from the community. And if you look at the way Ottawa is designing their campus, it's actually seamless with the existing civic and recreation campus. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a philosophical approach, not only that it's welcoming to the rest of the community, but that the city and the community and the university can come together as one.
Yes.
And so that exchange of ideas, the identification of opportunities where the university can advance themselves, where students feel comfortable talking to professionals at City Hall, professionals that are visiting City Hall. Mm-hmm. So I think it starts with actually the way the campus is designed. Very intentionally, it's from a seamless approach.
Is there any local partnerships that you create with businesses for students?
You know, it's interesting. We talk about partnerships, and one of the things it's always challenging when you approach it from a professional perspective. I want it to be authentic as possible. Mm-hmm. And so what we have done is we've embedded ourselves on the personal growth days, some of the city staff as facilitators on those Wednesday afternoons to get a better sense of what the priorities of the students are and then connect them with the appropriate community members. And what's really interesting, last year we noticed with the football team, one of the things that, one of the priorities that the football coaches had was community service. Mm-hmm. And so we identified two opportunities last spring. One, the City Hall takes a day of volunteer, and we go down to our water plant and we pick oranges every year. Mm-hmm. And it's for St. Mary's Food Bank.
Right.
But usually we only get to about 10% of the opportunity out there. And so we brought 120 football players, and they picked all of the oranges on a 100-acre water campus. Right? And St. Mary's was overwhelmed with the donation that day, but it was really being responsive to what the university is saying their need was, and then connecting it into the community. And then another great one is they wanted to have a capstone. The football team wanted to have a capstone to their spring training. And one of the things that I'm very proud of being a West Valley native is the shared public facility that we have in Glendale, where the West Valley communities have all invested, and both police and fire can do training down there. Mm-hmm. Well, they actually opened that facility up and had the football team run through that program.
Is that right?
And our communications team came in and videoed it. And the reason it's so important is it was inspiring for a lot of the players, because they want to have a professional career in law enforcement and in public safety and helping others, and seeing how people that do it for a living actually have to train, and then how it applies, of course, to the development of the football team.
Sure.
Was very interesting. So one of the things that we're really looking at is listening to the university. So a great example is they're kicking off their business club this spring.
Okay. Oh,
and I don't know if it's a charter member, but I'm a guest star in the business club. And one of the things that we're hearing is how do they prepare for job interviews, from professional attire, professional etiquette. And so we are going to be actually designing a program with the new dean of the business school, and then finding community partners that can participate in that program to elevate those students as they work towards the finishing their degree and their first jobs out of college.
Excellent. That's really great, Mike. Yeah. Really great. Listen, I get asked this one question a lot. What's going on with the City Cafe?
City Cafe.
What can you tell us?
So we've been inside City Hall for 10 years. We had a great operator who moved back to Minnesota, and so we lost our weekly paninis, as I like to say. And so what we really wanted to do was find an operator that could be at the same level or above in food quality and service and hospitality, but also have some sustainability, some predictability. And the food service provider for Ottawa University prepares 1,500 meals a day over at the university. And they agreed to work on a specialized menu inside of the new cafe, which will unveil the name. It's going to be called Cafe 60.
Cafe 60.
And it's commemorative to the city's founding year in 1960.
Yeah.
So it's very community-centric. But really the purpose of the investment that they're making in some of the upgrades, the aesthetic upgrades in that facility, is really to not only bring food service, but more importantly, bring people together, whether it be the university students, our residents, the visiting business public, and then of course the employees in the City of Surprise. We want to have that area where they can have those conversations away from the cubicles and really be able to advance initiatives that they're working on.
That's great. Well, good news. Listen, thank you both for joining me today. It's an exciting time for Ottawa and the City of Surprise. Coming up next, we'll talk with our new city manager and the city's commitment to emergency planning.
Now there's a new way to connect with the City of Surprise with the My Surprise app. Help us locate and report city-maintained service requests, such as broken streetlights, potholes on city streets, graffiti, flooded roadways, and more. The My Surprise app also allows you to pay your utility bill, receive public safety alerts, get reminded about your trash and recycling day, and connect with your city council members. Join us in building a beautiful, safe city we can all enjoy. Download the My Surprise app today.
Welcome back to the show. Here with me now is Mike Frazier, who was appointed as our city manager in November, and Tracy Montgomery, our new emergency manager. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Mike, while you're new to the city manager role, you're not new to the City of Surprise. And tell us about your background.
Well, hopefully we have enough time. I'm just kidding. You know, a lot of people have asked the question early on. I was in law enforcement for 40 years before I got into city management here a little over 3 years ago. But I always like to kind of set the stage about when you talk about my background. You know, I was actually born in Alaska, believe it or not, but grew up, my adolescence was in Roosevelt Lake, Arizona, so I am an Arizonan.
Okay.
And people will say, well, where did you kind of get this bug to be a cop, you know? And literally, growing up at the lake, when you run a boat dock and a store and a mobile home park, it doesn't matter what age you are, so in the single digits, I got to learn to work really hard. My mother taught me all about a day's work for a day's pay kind of thing. Right. Sweeping and mopping floors when I'm in the single digits again. But that kind of set a great platform for me. But the law enforcement piece really came in out in Roosevelt, very urban, or very rural, I should say. We had occasionally a DPS trooper come through or a Gila County deputy, and it seemed like every time they came, it was either to take the bad guy away or make things better in general. Right. And I think Tracy would attest to this, that in the law enforcement world, probably when a person is asked, why do you want to be a law enforcement officer, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is really, I want to help people. And so that really kind of set the stage for me. And years later, when I was a young 22-year-old, I joined the Phoenix Police Department, and that began a 32-year journey where I had a great opportunity to work a variety of different assignments, but more importantly, in building my repertoire, if you will, for the job I'm in now. We had a great lab to work in. I mean, we had, throughout our careers, great mentors, great opportunities, great experiences working in a large city. The training they provided was second to none. And you know, even during that time, I earned 2 degrees. I had my bachelor's degree from Arizona State and my master's in educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. So it was those backgrounds that really put me into the law enforcement world. But the one thing that really kind of made a difference to me is that it was always about service. It was about helping people and running organizations, and you know, I had the ability to do that. And again, I drew on a lot of great experiences that really helped me get to where I am today. So when someone says, was it really a jump from law enforcement to doing what I do now? Really not that much. I mean, people business. People business, leadership and management skills that you gather and the experiences you have truly help you be successful. And of course, I retired from Phoenix, then I was the chief in El Mirage for about 3 years, a little over 3 years actually, helping rebuild the department that had kind of fallen off the way. But I, you know, summoned all those things that I had learned over the years, and we put together a great team there. And when I left, I was very proud of what we had done there. In fact, it was one of the few opportunities you'll get to change a culture literally in a year, because we hired over 40 people in a 53-person department. So that was a great opportunity. And then the next thing I knew, there was an opportunity here in Surprise, and I applied, and I was fortunate enough, you know, really had a pretty good team here, although I did make a lot of changes. But we got that on track, and we have a great police department here. Since becoming the city manager, you built a real good executive team. You reorganized some things, yes, which I think is great. But you've always been a really strong advocate about emergency management
in bringing in an emergency manager. You felt that piece was missing in our city in terms of our safety.
Correct.
For our residents. And so tell us about that, Mike.
Yeah, you know, when I first accepted the job as an assistant city manager, our former manager, Bob Wingenroth, asked me what was the one thing that I wanted to accomplish. And that was to add an emergency manager to our team. And the reason is, I think a lot of people might say, well, why do you need an emergency manager? And they may even say, what is an emergency manager? But Tracy will get into that in a little bit. But in a nutshell, really, it's the constant process of preparing for, planning for, responding to, and recovering from natural or man-made disasters. And then some people would say, well, what disasters might we face here in Surprise? Well, I would say look in the sky most every day. We have military aircraft flying overhead. You know, those unfortunately crashes occur. We have trains coming through our city at times, and they sometimes carry very hazardous cargo. We have, everyone should know, some significant weather events. In fact, we had a very significant one that cost us almost $500,000 of damage to our stadium, in addition to other things in our city here just a few months ago. So, but while we could always respond to one, police and fire, they would handle the situation, but it wouldn't be as methodical and as professional, and we wouldn't, I don't think the big issue for me was recover from that damage as quickly until we have someone who can actually sit down and put together a program and make sure that the city is in sync in terms of understanding the role of emergency management.
Excellent. Well, Tracy, welcome to Surprise.
Thank you.
We're
that
honored
sounds
to
like
have
no
you
small
here.
job.
And you're our first emergency manager.
Yes.
And so tell us about what's been going on with you.
Well,
and some of your background, why you came here.
Sure. Yeah. Super grateful to have the opportunity. Mike said it best, you know, when you engage in a life of service.
Yes.
I too was a law enforcement officer. I retired after 32 years from the Phoenix Police Department. You really miss that ability to serve and contribute. And so this position, not only because of my education and my background, but certainly because of my passion for preparedness and helping people, really is a good fit for me. So, as I said, Phoenix Police Department, I came up in the ranks there, and for a lot of us, September 11th, the issues that occurred at September 11th were game changers for us. It really changed how we look at preparedness, collaboration and cooperation, and our vulnerabilities. And you know, we can look around our own homes and we know where our strong points are, and we know where some of the weak points are that maybe we'd like to fortify a back gate or a front door. You know, my role here as emergency manager is not going to be much different than that. Where do we feel great and confident, and then where are some opportunities for us to come together and be a little bit more prepared or a little bit more resilient. So I've spent the last 2 months getting to know all of the department heads and really getting their information, their perspectives. Where do they see our strengths? Where do they see some opportunities for improvement? So what I bring to the table, I was blessed, as Mike mentioned, to get a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees while attending or while working for City of Phoenix. But my last master's degree was from the Naval Postgraduate School in Homeland Security and Defense. So security studies with an emphasis on Homeland Security. So we look at the bigger picture, you know, what's the national threat, what's the international threat, and how does it change? And I can bring all of that back into the city of Surprise. And it's not just being a resilient government, it's being a resilient community. We have community members that are chomping at the bit, quite frankly, to get involved and support our efforts. So I'm bringing all that together in multiple areas: mitigation, planning, response, and then of course the recovery. We frequently think about emergency management as how will we respond? But when we're running a business like a city and we want to be a thriving government and support our citizens, we also need to get recovered when we have an incident. The other thing I'll say is we think about emergencies or episodes or incidents that we need to respond to as bad things. We could have a presidential visit. We live in a border state. A presidential visit would be an enormous and spontaneous occurrence that we'd have to plan for in a short amount of time. Would it be good news? Absolutely. Would it be a real great gift for Surprise to have someone from our internet or our national government come?
Would it have
Absolutely.
potential threats? Yes.
It would bring threats. It would bring a drain on our resources.
Yep.
We would have to tax our partners, and we've got great relationships with all of our law enforcement and public safety partners, but there's not a person that works for the city that wouldn't be touched by a positive incident such as that. So we have to think of we're not a tiny little city here in Surprise anymore. We have all sorts of aspects of our city that we need to safeguard our community, and that's my goal.
Great, Tracy. The magnitude of your job is intense, but what initial steps have you taken? You mentioned you interviewed, or you've been meeting with directors.
Yes. Well, nobody knows better how they feel about our current situation than those of us who work here in this environment every day. So that's why I interviewed the department heads. But I've also, we have a spring training baseball season coming up that brings a lot of people, a lot of customers to the city. So we're getting oriented with the baseball stadium and preparing for that. We just had the surprise party. That was a great opportunity for me to observe how we, as a large group, manage large events. Was there 5,000
people there or something at the surprise party?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
Yes. So I've been really getting a great first look at a lot of how we interact, how we behave. One thing I've remarked hundreds of times, what a warm and willing group of community members and employees for the city of Surprise. Just a warm, welcoming, earnest group of people that have a strong desire to contribute. So we're positioned so well, and every day the picture gets a little clearer about how really well we've done over time preparing. Our City Hall facility is in a great shape to be resilient and to withstand intrusions and those sorts of things. So I'm getting my eye on that, and then starting to work on a training program to get everybody on the same page for response. Great. So those are some of the first things I'm addressing.
And then the interconnectedness outside the city, how important that is with the county and the state and the federal.
With the county, with the state, with again, since September 11th, and then the next iteration was Hurricane Katrina. How do we respond as a city government? How do we engage our county and our state partners? And then ultimately, if we, heaven forbid, were to need federal assistance, how do we engage? So yes, thankfully, because of my previous assignment, I have a lot of wonderful relationships with just the right people. And we've got our public safety federal level partners, the U.S. Secret Service, the FBI, many federal agencies who have a lot of information and a lot of sharing to do. So it is, nobody does it alone, not even a big city.
I know.
We solve all these big problems because we collaborate and we come together. So we're really blessed here in the Valley. We follow the fire department's example in public safety of just being mutually supportive and mutually aid each other, and then we worry about how much that costs as a secondary thought. Not, it's safety first and helping people first.
Right. So. That's great, Tracy.
Thank you.
Again, welcome to our city.
Thank you.
And you're going to be a real benefit to this city. I know.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So. Thank you both. I hope you enjoyed the show and that you are excited about the future of the City of Surprise as I am. There are a lot of great things happening in our city. If you have questions or comments for me, I'd love to hear from you. You can call me or email me anytime, and I welcome you to sign up for my newsletter, which is filled with the latest city news and information. Just click on the Notify Me button on the website to sign up. Thanks for watching.